welcome to the Monday evening.
Love ball like I do. After Dark, it's a must-listen.
That's where I go to get my hoops fix.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
All right, welcome in everybody to the Field of 68 After Dark on this Wednesday. It must be getting close to March because we got a star-studded crew alongside me today. I am Chris Childress, Tyler Hansbrough, Randolph Childress, and Jeff Goodman with us today. It was a busy, busy night of college basketball, especially in the SEC. Gentlemen, we got some good games going on as we speak. Alabama is trying to come back against Mizzou. A lot of good stuff. Auburn in a tussle with Arkansas with a couple minutes left. We'll talk about that game in a little bit. But right now, let's lead with Kentucky. The Wildcats beat up on Vanderbilt 82-61. Vandy's always a little iffy away from Memorial, away from Nashville. That was definitely the case tonight. Sometimes they just get absolutely obliterated. Kentucky had their number. Mark Pope and company smoked them. The Wildcats have kind of righted the ship. I know they had lost 3 of 4. Now they've won 3 of their last 4. Next game up is against an Alabama team that looks a little bit vulnerable in Tuscaloosa. Jeff Goodman, let's start with you. Kentucky, they flexed tonight. Mark Pope and company had those fans on their feet all 40 minutes.
Yeah, and the best part of these wins is that they're going to get Jackson Robinson and Lamont Butler healthy. That they've been able to win without a point guard. I mean, that's the craziest part of this, right? Is that they have, Kirk Kreese is out for the year. Butler re-injured the shoulder. Jackson Robinson's been hurt for the last 4 or 5 games. And they end up getting this win against, a good Vanderbilt team. They're not a great Vanderbilt team. Mark Byington's done a hell of a job putting them in position right now where they're in the mix for an NCAA tournament berth when they were picked at the bottom of the SEC preseason rankings. So, the big thing is Kentucky showing they've got enough, right? Otega Owe was terrific tonight. He's been great all year for the most part. And Amari Williams, you can play through him. You could see that tonight, and that's what Mark Pope's been able to do. So, I think this was a good win for a shorthanded Kentucky team. But, again, most important piece, those guards are getting healthier.
That's
the biggest I don't think we ever expected them to fall off we didn't expect them to fall, the wheels to fall off this thing. We thought they kind of figure out a way to keep it together. Getting those guys back just ensue Kentucky can win a couple of games. How far can they go in the tournament? We don't know. I don't think anybody's maybe having them as a Final Four pick or anything like that. But again, they're capable of shooting. The question is defending. You get Lamont back. That's big. For what he brings to them on the defensive end of the floor. I think it helps all the frontline guys out with Williams and Carr as well. I think they'll get a few more opportunities when he's back, and when Jackson Robinson's back, he just fits in being their most consistent shooter. So, good win for Kentucky. Vandy has struggled away from home, but again, like you said, Jeff, getting those guys back as they get ready for conference tournament and NCAAs, it's just a bonus for them.
Tyler, I'm curious in your opinion. What is Kentucky to you? A year ago, John Calipari, all he ever did for the last however many years he was in Lexington was recruit the big NBA guys, those 5 stars, the freshmen, the whole deal. There's Goodman there with his Kentucky Wildcat hat on. Looking very sporty. I like that. You look good.
Well, I was going to put this one on, but I'm like, get that crap off right now. Like, I don't want that. I don't want that Kansas hat anywhere near me right now.
that's tainted with Hunter Dickinson's attitude. That's tainted with Dickinson attitude right there. I would throw that thing in the trash that Kansas had.
Yeah.
No, but for Kentucky, so here's my question to Tyler. Because, John Calipari, every year when he signed the big studs, our expectation for them and their expectation, Big Blue Nation was to go to the Final Four. This year, it was year one, Mark Pope, and they got, guys from Drexel and Dayton and Oklahoma and, all kinds of different places to piece this team together. When you look at this team, are they a Final Four team? I don't think anybody's betting on that. Could they get there? You never know. But the question for me is this. Is this just kind of a honeymoon year for Mark Pope, or have we adjusted our expectation for Kentucky just based on how the team is constructed, how the league has changed, how Calipari is not bringing in the one and done? Like, what is the reality now for Mark Pope?
Well, first of all, Jeff, I would put both of those hats in the trash. But second of all, I just want to say Mark Pope has done a great job. The confidence that he has given his players and the fan base has been unbelievable. He's ignited them. He's done a very good job doing that. But in my opinion, what's really going to determine Kentucky's run and how far they can go in the NCAA tournament is Lamont Butler. And when he gets back, I've dealt with shoulder injuries before. They can be nagging and they can be lingering as well. I just felt like he was playing with the confidence, and you know what he can do defensively. He's an experienced guard. He's a veteran. He's been to the Final Four. He's one of those pieces that came over to Kentucky and started playing for Pope. And just like Pope, offensively, he gives his players freedom. He gives them confidence. And you just started to see him really turn it on in ways that we haven't seen offensively, and really made Kentucky a different type of team because of his defensive mentality. Now he's starting to be a bulldog offensively. And you're starting to see some of these players like Williams, who protects the rim, he's a great rim protector, start to do the same things. I mean, I don't have Kentucky as a Final Four team. Would I be floored if Kentucky made the Final Four? No, I wouldn't, because they've been tested every single night in the SEC. And Pope has given this team a lot of confidence. And it seems like if Butler comes back and he is 100% healthy, I think he's going to make this team better than we thought.
I'll say this, guys. The problem is, and again, to your point about shoulder injuries, being someone that's had 3 of them, he's not going to be 100%. And he's not. And this is going to probably require some type of surgery after the season or something like that. It wouldn't surprise me. Once your shoulder starts popping out, that's it. You just rest. You let it calm down. For the first day or two, you start that subluxing coming out. You can't lift it above your head. It takes you 2 or 3 days before you can do that. He'll never be 100% until the season ends. Like I said, I'll be surprised if it doesn't require some type of surgery or long-term rest. But the concern is because of the way he defends and the way he competes on the defensive end of the floor.
Yes.
That's where it's going to limit him. Just screening, coming through screens, everything else, being afraid to use it as much. This is just toughening it out, trying to figure out a way when it calms down. But when you're dealing with a shoulder injury, you're just one way, one movement, one hit, one screen from it popping out again. Because once it starts popping out, it just continues.
The good news is he's a guy that certainly, I mean, you want him around no matter what, because he knows how to win in March. He certainly is a hell of a leader. He's accomplished, Jeff Goodman. I mean, this guy, he's been to the final weekend. I mean, he understands what it takes. And he's done it with a team that was an underdog, that was, a gritty, grind it out every single night, try to find a way, and they did. If he's done 100%, that sucks, because you would love to see him at 100%, but I still think he's going to have value in March.
He will, but again, like RC said, I mean, I was at the game where he re-injured it, and, it was kind of fighting through a screen, and, it's going to happen again and again because of how hard he plays. He's not a big-time offensive player, but he's having the best offensive year of his college career, and they kind of need him for that. The good thing is, for Kentucky, they've actually been really good in the defensive end over the last few games. And I think a lot of it was a pride thing. Everybody was hammering the hell out of them because they were so bad for a couple games there against Ole Miss and somebody, Arkansas. I think those 2 games, they were terrible. So I think they're showing more pride overall as a team on that end of the floor, but they're not going anywhere without Lamont Butler. Not, unless he's like 90, I don't know what he's going to be, but he can't get hurt again, and he can't be playing at, 60%.
Let's talk about the loser of this game. And, no shame going to Rupp and taking one on the chin. But Vanderbilt's right on the line. I mean, our bracketology, everybody's bracketology's got them flirting. Depending on which one you look at, they're typically on the good side, but barely. What do you think right now, RC? I mean, Vanderbilt's a lot of quad 1 opportunities, so it doesn't really kill them when they lose, and there's still some chances along the way to strengthen that resume. But what is Mark Byington's squad right now? Do you eventually see them in the NCAA tournament?
Listen, he's done a hell of a job with them. And can they make it? Yes. I feel confident that they'll get it done. I think they just got to get a game at home. They got Ole Miss coming to town. You need to take care of business at home. They're right there. They're just going to get opportunities that some of the teams that they're competing against, they just won't get. And it starts with them. If they can take care of business at Ole Miss, just getting that type of win gives you so much leeway. These games don't hurt you. So losing to Kentucky will not hurt them. Getting the opportunity to play these games. So they'll be fine. And I didn't think they played great tonight. Again, they've struggled in my mind. They've had losses like this when you've gotten away from Memorial. They get a chance to get home this weekend. I think that turns into a big game to kind of get yourself off the bubble, because then you can control your own destiny.
They're not an overly talented team, and they've been caught up in the minutia of the SEC. That's one of the greatest leagues of all time this year, if not the greatest from a depth perspective. And it's just been tough for them night in and night out. They're not overly talented. And I think Byington has probably squeezed Tyler everything that he can out of this Vanderbilt team. I think what he's done is given, anybody that's a highfalutin, Vanderbilt booster, because in basketball, it's a lot different than football. It takes a couple of guys to make a difference. And Vandy certainly has their fair share of rich dudes. I think Mark Byington has certainly at least laid down that foundation to make everybody believe this program is in a good place with him as the coach.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a total 180, and he's given them some hope. But, my problem with Vandy right now is they've lost the last 5 of 6. Their net is 42. But playing in this SEC, when you look at their schedule, they only have one quad 2 game, and every other game remaining on their schedule is a quad 1 game. So they're going to have their opportunities. And, playing in a conference like this, that's the benefits of it. Yes, you're going to have every game. You're going to have a tough game every single night. You're going to get tested. But on the other end of that, you're going to have your opportunities to make a resume and make your case to get into the tournament. Now, what I will say is, looking at kind of their, resume right here, they have no losses in the quad 3 or quad 4. They have one quad 2 loss to Drake. That's really their only bad loss. So that's what they have for them.
And Drake's a pretty damn good team in their own right, which is probably going to be in the NCAA tournament, even though they had a tough loss over the weekend themselves. The Bulldogs did. Also, we had a bunch of good stuff tonight in the SEC. We just got a final in Auburn. The Tigers, the home team, beat Arkansas 67-60. Jani Broome leads the way once again, National Player of the Year candidate. He was 7 of 15 from the field, 16 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, had himself another banner day. This was a nip and tuck, grind it out, tough game. Auburn needed a couple big free throws at the end to seal it, put away, but the Tigers end up getting another big win. They just find ways to win. And I could see coming off Alabama, it was an emotional game. It was on the road. It was one of those tough, gritty, kind of moments. I could see this being the classic trap. They got through it. And Goodman, to me, just another telltale sign of a championship caliber program that Bruce has put together.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. I mean, again, it wasn't pretty. They didn't make shots. They've made shots all year from deep. They didn't do that today. They actually went on a run without Jani Broome. He was on the bench. But at the end of the game, they know how to win games.
Yep.
And Arkansas, frankly, knows how to lose games, and that's kind of the difference here. It is. I mean, that's the difference. Chad Baker-Mazara he was aggressive getting the basket. He goes to the line. He makes some shots. Janai Broome makes, a couple of shots. And, the one thing to me is still Denver Jones has been so good in the defensive end. If you look at what he did, I'd be curious to see the numbers. When he was matched up on Nelly Davis tonight, Nelly Davis did nothing. And this is every single game now for Denver Jones. So Auburn wins again. And it just feels like it's like every time we say it. Now, they're not blowing teams out like they probably have been more so earlier in the season, but they're winning games. And again, they outscored, I'm looking at here, Arkansas 8-2 in the final 3 minutes of the game. So they know how to close these games out.
Somebody asked me a question, RC. If you took this Auburn Tiger team and juxtaposed it right now to Duke, and we're going to have a National Player of the Year conversation in a little bit, and I think right now a lot of people that I talk to say they're going to have one of those teams on the final line in their bracket. If you were to just take and compare them right now, I mean, Duke is whipping people's butt in the ACC. Now, somebody asked me this afternoon, if you took Duke and put them in the SEC, what would it look like if they had to run through the schedule? RC, what do you think? How do you compare? Because Auburn is finding ways to win. Duke is kicking people's butt. Is the league all the difference, or is Duke that much better?
Well, they're that much better than everyone in the ACC. And if you put them in the SEC, I think they'd be right there, challenging Auburn for the regular season SEC championship because they're elite defensive. They're really good defensively. Now, I do think the injury to Malik Brown, and we're talking about another shoulder injury, right? And and that's big for a defensive guy. Now, they don't need him to come in and inject offense, but his versatility and what he does as a backup to Malowach is what it changed to that team. We'll see how long he's out. They won't need him the rest of the ACC regular season, so he can take as much time as he needs. But I do think his value to that Duke lineup is incredible. So Auburn's the real deal to me. I think they're a team that I would, if you gave me a bet right now to say them to San Antonio, they're the one team that I feel as though I'd say they're going to make it to Final Four. Something can happen and they may not win a national championship. I just think they find ways to win. Today, Jeff mentioned, it wasn't pretty at all. This wasn't, Arkansas played hard, give them credit, they competed. They just find ways. It's always someone else steps up. Janai Broome's always anchors it, but everyone else chips up. Chips in, whether it's Miles one game, whether it's Denver Jones, it's just all Jihad. It's somebody's making plays for them, and they're not relying just on their Player of the Year candidate. So to answer your question, if Duke was in the in SEC, they're good enough. They'd be right there with Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee competing against Auburn.
I don't doubt that. Look at Goodman again. You're like a quick change artist on Broadway or Vegas or something like that. I love it. He's sneaky over there with the Auburn hat.
I gotta make Hansbrough laugh. I gotta. If I make Hansbrough smile, that's a good day. That's a good day for me.
They found a way to win tonight, Jeffrey, after beating Alabama in an emotional game in a really exciting environment on the road. It was a bragging rights game. It was a game at the water cooler that Auburn fans have been talking crap to their Bama friends at all the businesses in and around Alabama and Birmingham, especially where you have a lot of the melting pot businesses with Auburn and Alabama fans. So this could have been a letdown and they avoided it. It's certainly a character win, but how do you are they legitimately the best team in your eyes?
Yeah. How do you argue that, right, Tyler? I mean, I don't think you can argue right now that Auburn's the best team in the country in anybody's eyes. Are they the most talented team? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, they've got talent, but other teams have more. I mean, Duke's got more high-end talent. We know that. They're going to have more guys drafted in the lottery. But what Auburn has is, again, they've got guys that play hard, that play with a chip on their shoulder. Most of the guys on this team, if you think about it, a lot of them were mid-major transfers, starting with their best player, Jani Broome. Denver Jones, their best defensive player. They've got a lot of guys that, again, play with that chip on their shoulder, and winning all these games isn't going to change that. So I love this team. I've kind of fought it for the first probably 15 games of the season of like, I'm not sold on Auburn. They're going to come back down to earth a little bit. Well, they haven't. And you know how that is, Tyler. When you get that winning, right, you get that swagger in you that you kind of expect to win every game. That means something, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'm watching the game tonight for some reason. Jeff, I'm like, I'm believing that Arkansas has a chance, and I'm thinking that in the first half, I'm like, man, I tell you what, this Arkansas team, they have some athletes, they can get up and run. It's just Auburn is a different team. They may walk into the NCAA tournament with one of the best resumes of any team ever to enter. There is no question they are the best team, and they can find multiple ways to win. And I've always said it, the Cardwell kid, he doesn't even care about scoring. All he cares about is being physical, controlling the paint, and dominating the boards. And when you have a guy like that playing and accepting his role and not trying to score or be superhero, it only makes your team that much better. And I love his mentality. The Cardwell kid doesn't get a lot of hype, but when he caught the ball on the top of the key, no one was guarding him, and he took it right to the rim and tried to just yoke it on all of Arkansas. That is a great mindset. And, Auburn is by far the best team in the country. Like Jeff said, maybe not the most talented, but they're going to walk into the tournament with the best resume. No question about it.
And see, Jeff, I'd even push back some, Jeff, even with the talent, because I think when you're saying NBA talent, they may not have NBA talent, but everything else, I think they're the most balanced team in college basketball. When you talk about high-end defense, they got perimeter shooting, and even like tonight, when we talk about Alabama, whenever we think if Alabama struggles from three, we're like, all right, they can lose. They're going to struggle against good teams. This team struggled tonight, and as good as this game was, I never thought Arkansas was going to beat them. I just felt like, all right, they're going to make a play. They'll find. I didn't think Arkansas was going to beat them. If the game was maybe there, but being in Auburn, I never thought for a second. I'm like, all right, somebody else is going to make a play. They'll find a way to win this game. I never thought. I just didn't.
You know what it is too? They've got fearless dudes. They've got like 3 or 4 guys that want the ball at the end of the game and aren't gonna. They're not gonna shrink. They're just not. They're not. You could see it whether it's Janai, Chad Baker-Mazara. He's staring their whole bench down. Denver Jones, again, wants the toughest assignment.
Miles
Pettiford
Kelly
is a killer.
Maker.
Yeah. They got a lot.
So the final score tonight was a missed opportunity for the Arkansas Razorbacks. 67-60 was the final, in spite of the fact that it wasn't a great game for Auburn. They missed a lot of threes. They jacked up 24. They went 4 of 24 and still found a way to grind out this game tonight. When you look at the other side for Arkansas, that is a team that certainly paid a lot for the coach, paid a lot for NIL. They did not get the results they desired. They're now 4-9 in the league. I think, Tyler, there's 5 games left to play. What say you about where this is going with a couple weeks and change left before Nashville for the Arkansas Razorbacks?
So when Arkansas beat Kentucky at Rupp, I really felt like that was going to give them momentum to really kickstart and make this team what I thought they could be. I thought Nelly Davis was going to leave. I thought he was going to start playing like we thought he would before he went to Arkansas. And I thought that Big Z was really going to turn it on. And when I watched Arkansas, I really felt like Big Z was starting to play a lot better. He's starting to hit everything from the outside. It was just like these little winning plays at the end of the games where they weren't disciplined. They're making careless turnovers. And one play I'll point to in the first half is when Z got that block and then he stared down, he stared down the Auburn player and got the tech. Now that was just a selfish play, putting yourself before the team, and you just can't win when you have those careless plays like that. And I've watched Arkansas play, and I really felt like they were close, just a few possessions from really turning around games and getting some wins. And they just haven't done that, and they haven't shot it well. I mean, Big Z tonight, he didn't have his best night, 0 for 9 from the 3. He's got to give them something if he's going to play big minutes in the starting lineup. And you can't go 50% from the free throw line and expect to win a game, especially on the road at Auburn.
Chris Childers, Randolph Childress, Tyler Hansbrough, Jeff Goodman. It is the Field of 68 after dark. Janai Broome, again, 16 points, 13 rebounds tonight. Is he the National Player of the Year? Or has Cooper Flagg just been way too impressive in the ACC? Let's debate it. Plus, we'll talk more about tonight's action when we come back on the Field of 68 after dark.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68. Bet insurance tokens, odds boosts, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two here or there. Be sure to keep your eye out in the app for the Field of 68 specials that we'll be running throughout the season as well. So go download the BetMGM app to sign up today. College basketball fans, are you ready to take your hoops game to a new level? Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just trying to win your March Madness office pool, Rhythm is here to give you the edge this season. With data-driven predictions for every single college basketball game left on the schedule, Rhythm helps you maximize your bets. And as March Madness kicks off, Rhythm's insights will help you spot those plucky Cinderellas that you know are going to shake up the NCAA tournament. But that's not all. When Selection Sunday rolls around, let Rhythm's AI-powered bracket generator do the heavy lifting for you. This is the same AI tool that performed 35% better than the average ESPN bracket last year. And here's the best part. Rhythm pairs perfectly with our Field of 68 expert analysis, giving you the 1-2 punch that you need for the rest of the college basketball season. So don't wait. Download Rhythm today and get ready to see college basketball and your betting results in a whole new light.
All right, we're back on the Field of 68 after dark on this Wednesday. Couple weeks left to go, and it is March, which means conference tournaments are right around the weekend. Can't wait to see Jeff Goodman here in my great city of Nashville, Tennessee, which might be the most anticipated conference tournament ever. Somebody asked me today, what are you excited about? I said, for the first time in my life, Thursday, and maybe even Wednesday of the SEC tournament. Like, it's crazy. So it is coming really quick. Janai Broome is going to be an attraction at that tournament in Nashville. We have a couple weeks left to go. We talked about his performance tonight. He was critical in their home win, holding off a pesky Arkansas team and John Calipari. He is absolutely a candidate for Player of the Year. I know he did have some injury issues that he had to overcome. They did win without him, which I thought was a great sign for Auburn. But this year, he's averaging 18 points and 10 rebounds a game, playing around 28 and a half minutes, shooting about 50% from the field. The question is that good enough to beat out Cooper Flagg, who's shooting around 49% from the field, averaging around 20 points per game, 8 rebounds, somewhat similar numbers. Both guys have been unbelievable. Cooper has kind of just wowed us with the way he plays the game and the way he does it on the defensive end. I'll kind of go around the horn here. But Randolph, I'll start with you as we do the little Brady bunch. I'll look to my side. But who's your guy? With a few weeks left, is it Janai Broome, Cooper Flagg, or could you make a case for Braden Smith or, Kalkbrenner? Is there somebody else?
I think it's a two-man race. I think it's a two-man race. I don't think you're going to find anybody arguing more than that. Anybody other than that, you're just talking about all-American team. I was conflicted because Janai Broome's been the best player on the best team for most of the year. But I feel like Cooper Flagg has just had moments that's just reminded you of who he is and what he is. So if voting right now, I'd give this slight edge to Cooper Flagg, but I think this is as close of a Player of the Year award as we've had in quite some time. I mean, I don't want to penalize Janai Broome for being on the team that he's on because he is the reason that this is the number one team in the country. And then you don't call it a great performance, but he still had another double-double. So I'm gonna go Cooper Flagg, but that's just heads or tails right now, and I think that could change before the season ends.
Yeah, BetMGM odds. Cooper Flagg right now, when you look at things, is sitting there at -160. Janai Broome +120. So slight favorite Cooper Flagg. I would not be shocked. I was talking to another person earlier today, Jeff Goodman, that says any other year Cooper Flagg is obvious. I mean, this kid's a freshman that's kind of lit the world on fire, and Duke is smoking teams in the ACC. But Janai Broome, it's the best team in the country in a league that is loaded, and it's a war every night, and he's leading that team. So certainly it is very debatable.
Well, I'm going to defer first to the 2008 National Player of the Year. All right,
sure.
I'm going to do the right
save
thing
the best
here.
for last.
Yeah, I'm doing the right thing. I'm letting Tyler go
be
first.
Like Vanessa Williams, but all right.
I'll bat third. I'll bat third on this one. I'm
right.
going to let RC lead off, and
Listen,
then we're going with Tyler.
I'm glad you did that, Jeff, because if you pick Flagg, I was going to have to go with Broome. And I'm kind of like you in that way. And listen, to me, the National Player of the Year right now is Cooper Flagg. It is a close race, but the reason I'm going to lean towards Flagg, multiple reasons, but for one is they beat Auburn. I know it was at Duke, but still, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt with that one. But I've watched Cooper Flagg in person, and he's much more impressive when you see him in person. I mean, and this is not a knock to Broome because he deserves a lot of credit. And this National Player of the Year race is as close as it's ever been. I agree with RC. Cooper Flagg just does so much. And I think his ability, the wow factor and the highlight plays has an impact on my decision too. I just think that his talent and what he does and how he affects the game in so many different areas, it's just incredible. And I really believe that he's the reason Duke has had so much success this year. And I think the reason they've been dominating, and that's not to take away against Broome. I just think that Flagg he does so much on the court. His ability to guard multiple positions, his length, his passing, he makes the right plays. And he's so incredible that he really takes away from how good some of his teammates are. The Maluwatch kid, to me, is one of the most underrated players in the country, and the way that he affects the game as well with his length and rim protection and his ability to control the paint doesn't get a lot of attention because of how great Flagg is. I'm going to lean with Flagg for those reasons.
Jeff, before you go, I think what has hurt Janai Broome, to be honest, when it comes to the voters, is this Auburn team didn't miss a beat when he was out with his ankle injury. It just showed you how good that team is. And I don't think any of us feel if Cooper Flagg is not on the floor for Duke, will that team be anywhere near where it is and where we seem it to be. I think that's the reason why, because you can make a compelling argument about best player, best team, but that team is good enough that it was able to hold it down when Janai Broome wasn't available. And we all know for sure, you take Cooper Flagg off the floor, that Duke team they're not stringing together wins without him.
I feel bad, Childress. I feel bad picking one because I do think they're both deserving. It is hard. It's, again, you're talking about the best player on the best team. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, Auburn's been the best team. Duke's been pretty damn good. It's not like we're talking about a team that's an 8 or a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament. You're talking about maybe the best team and the second best team at the end of the day. What I love about both of them is they're both versatile. Obviously, Cooper's more versatile, but Janai's a good passing big man. He's a rim protector. He can do a lot of things as a big that, again, he couldn't do when he first got to Auburn. So he's really expanded his game. Missed a couple games, like RC said. I would go Cooper, too, by a little bit here. I think Janai's actually he had the early lead, and then I thought Cooper took that lead, and now I think Janai's kind of closed the gap again a little bit and made it a race. But to me, Cooper just does everything. And I hate to do this, but it's almost like because Cooper is 18 years old, I'm almost more likely to give it to him. And maybe I should give it to the older guy, the senior who's kind of worked for this. But I feel like it's just so damn impressive what Cooper Flagg has done as a 17-year-old when he first started at Duke, and now a young 18-year-old. It's insane. I mean, his basketball IQ is one of maybe the 5 best that I've seen since covering this sport. It's that good, and how hard he plays all the time. Janai doesn't always play that hard all the time. Like, he'll have some moments there, especially in the defensive end, where he'll have lapses. I don't think you can really find those with Cooper.
All right, I'm with you guys. Cooper Flagg probably is going to win this thing. And will I say he's the best basketball player in the country? I will. But you just mentioned it. Like, the senior that has developed and has worked his ass off and kind of led Auburn to this point, to being this kind of program. And every night he's dominant. And the SEC is just a bitch night in and night out to have to navigate. All they do is win. They just went to Tuscaloosa. Randolph's right. They didn't miss a beat without him, but still, to me, they didn't quite feel like Auburn. They won, like they got by Georgia and teams like that. I just think he's so important. You guys make great points, and I think, Tyler said it, take Cooper off Duke, and Duke's nowhere near Duke. But there's something about building Auburn to this point and being the face of that I don't know. I kind of honor that in its kind of total package as National Player of the Year. So as a voter, I think I would lean that way, at least at this point, with a couple weeks left to go.
Let's just hope that it's not a landslide. Like, that's the only thing. I think Janai Broome, if Cooper Flagg wins it, it doesn't need to be like unanimous or something crazy. It needs to be indicative of, for Janai Broome, it needs to be a close in the voting as well, because he is deserving of Player of the Year. It's just Cooper Flagg has lived up to the billing, and that's what's so impressive about it with him. It's not just hype; he's actually validated it, and not just Conference Player of the Year. So credit to him, but I hope it's indicative of the voting that Janai Broome gets credit he deserves.
Well, let's hear a conversation that Jeff Goodman had with Robbie Hummel on his podcast on the Field of 68. Is it Goodman or Hummel and Goodman? Who gets the first
I'm
crack?
the older one. I'm
of
the
course,
older
so
one.
Goodman,
Come on.
Goodman and Hummel. I should have known.
You want to hear what
I
they
should have
call
known.
him?
I should have known better than to even ask that question. But this is from Goodman and Hummel, and they talked to Jon Scheyer, the coach of the Duke Blue Devils, about Cooper Flagg, and here's what he had to say.
John, I wanted to ask you about Cooper. There's a certain pressure that comes with being the number one player in your high school class, and we see that year in and year out. It's like being the number one pick in the NBA draft. He's lived up to the hype. Seems like a 2-horse race for National Player of the Year. What to you is the most impressive thing that he does?
The most impressive thing to me, Robbie, is the fact that he's the same way every day. Like, his approach, he's competitive, he has energy, he's as loud as anybody in the gym, and it just picks everything up. Like, so as a coach, your job, look, usually you have lots of times as a coach, you're talking about the energy of a practice, or we need to pick it up, and that hasn't happened this year. Now Cooper's not the only reason, but being the best player, he's a huge reason of why that's the case. And then the second thing, it goes along with it, but he's not everybody has the skill of being able to make everybody around them better, and that happens from his play, the fact he's so unselfish and a great passer, and he's not about stats, but it also comes from understanding the guys where he knows he's got to put their arm around them, where their confidence is down, or if it's getting on them and confronting them. He just has a unique feel, for how to pick others up and, rise to the occasion. So he's done an incredible job with both of those things.
I love his temperament, man. Like, every time you watch him, and he's kind of even keel, but you can tell, like you said, how competitive he is. To me, I said it recently, he's one of the top 10 players I think I've ever covered in college basketball. and the numbers might not completely support it, right? Like sometimes, again, he just does everything well. There's no hole in his game, especially now that he's shooting the three well. All right, give me, though, John, the thing that you get on him the most, because I know he likes to be coached. Give me the thing that you have to get on him or are getting on him even down the stretch here.
Well, let me just say two things with it. One, and when you mention numbers, I mean, look, because he's had a killer instinct in our team. We've had some games. He hasn't played at the end of games a lot, so that's just the reality. So his numbers aren't going to be off the charts, crazy or whatever. The other thing is when we have gotten those leads, he's trying to get others. That's part of him understanding, getting guys shots. So I think that's part of what makes him so special. But look, obviously he's got a lot of things he has to work on long term and for us to win. I'm on him all the time about working and get open, before he gets the ball, right? Like the better teams you face, and as he goes on in his career, he has to become better with coming off screens and setting his men up. Defensively, he's grown so much this year, just his positioning of where to be at, which is hard as a freshman, let alone a guy that's a year early. And he makes up for it with his length and, amazing instincts. And I think he's come such a long way, So for me, it's all about off the ball. Offensively and defensively, his cutting, his screening, his positioning. One thing I've talked to him about, like Jason Tatum has become such a great screener, in the NBA. He gets an advantage or a mismatch from his screening. And Cooper's really embraced that. And just his screening angles, understanding coverages of how they're playing, he's done a great job of growing with that. It just, there's levels to it. And he's going to continue to develop that piece.
John, don't you think it's interesting that screening can really be selfish? You probably felt that, like,
Yes.
It doesn't have to be, while it looks unselfish,
Exactly.
It really can be selfish for yourself because
Robbie,
you get open all the time.
the two things as players you never want to, in your mind, you have a thing against is I never want to run in the corner. Like you feel like, the corner is the worst place to possibly be.
The coffin. Yeah.
But really, both those things open up so much for you. And so we have to get over, both of those parts. But really, screening is like I put so much more value on it for me the last year or two, just especially with our best players, understanding how much it opens the floor up for them.
All right, that's Duke coach Jon Scheyer from the Goodman and Hummel podcast on the Field of 68 Network. Jon Scheyer's doing a just terrific job, getting players, coaching players, developing them, and the culture right now in Durham is, Tyler, sorry to say, pretty damn impressive right now. They've been outstanding, and certainly that program has a chance to win a national championship. Let's talk about a former Duke player right now. We just had a final in Missouri, in Columbia, and a former Duke player was absolutely outstanding. He went off in a big way tonight. When you look at the game between Missouri and Alabama, kind of wild. They got on him, Missouri did, and got on him early. They beat the Tide 110-98. They really kind of held the Tide at arm's length the entire game. Mark Mitchell finishes the game 11 of 15, the former Duke transfer from the field. He was 8 of 12 from the charity stripe, finished with 31 points. Mark Sears did what he could. He had 35, but Dennis Gates gets himself a massive quad one win. Jeff, for Alabama, that is now 2 losses in a row. The impact is what, sir?
Well, it's huge for Missouri because, they can get to that 4 seed line and maybe get protected and stay closer to home in the NCAA tournament. Listen, this is a team that nobody expected to have this type of year. What Dennis Gates has done is incredible. I mean, really incredible if you think about it, right? He's taken a lot of cast-offs. Let's be honest here. Caleb Grill, Iowa State didn't really want him. Mitchell, Duke didn't really want him. Tamar Bates, I'm not sure Indiana really wanted him. Tony Perkins had been a little bit, at Iowa. So he's taken a lot of guys that weren't the guys that everybody wanted, even in the portal. And, he plays this style that really fits his team And I think that's one of the things that they did a great job of, he and his staff. Sometimes you have to know who you want to get for your head coach, who fits. And they did a great job with Dennis getting guys that fit him and his style.
Especially after a year ago when they were non-competitive. I mean, they were completely and utterly at the bottom of the league. The year before, they were the surprise. So for him to be able to kind of, get the program balanced and now competitive again at a high level and to get the right guys. And I got to think it's hard, Randolph, because we're in a world now where you got to judge character in a split second. We're in this, portal and guys are moving in and out. And he's got a couple of homegrown dudes that he's had for the last couple of years, plus some transfers anchored around that. But to me, anytime you can get the right culture when you're in this era, it's a job well done by everybody on the staff.
We shouldn't be surprised because this is what Florida State team has been in years past with depth. And you talk about multiple guys. They play 12 guys. They're playing these guys. It's easy to have this many guys and it's easy to play buy-in because it's almost like the mindset is you're going in for a TV timeout. You play as hard as you can. Where everybody's trying to condense their roster or condense their lineup, maybe go to an 8-man and get shorter. Gates is playing 10, 12 guys, and they're going to rotate those guys in. If they play healthy, I never thought I'd see a team for two halves when Alabama's making shots, beat them in a high-scoring game. That's usually how Alabama wants to play. They want the score to be around 100. There's not many teams that are capable of doing it, but you saw the Missouri come out tonight and put up 110 on them. And this wasn't even an overtime game. It's just impressive to see, but I'm not surprised. The only thing I'd add is it's funny, and I've said this behind the scene and I say it now. I felt as though now if you're Florida State right now, how do you not go get him before and just make this transition years ago and have him be your head coach right now before you letting him go to West? Like I would have, I get
because of his buyout.
No. I'm talking about.
He's talking before
Cleveland State. I'm talking
you're
before.
talking before. Okay,
I just
fair.
thought it was
That's
just.
fair.
I just think it's just in the sense of you're like, hey, because I'm not saying you get rid of Ham, but in the sense of this is one of Ham's guys. Like Ham was,
And
I can
Ham
see
was in the
saying,
70s.
Hey,
yeah.
exactly. If Ham, Ham might say, all right, if it's going to be Dennis Gates, I'll move out the way a lot quicker than us being the way we are right now. Now you're about to go on this search and figure it out. When if you offered him that job at Florida State right now, just throw that out there. But I've been a big Dennis Gates fan. We all have. He's done a hell of a job. She deserves way more attention than he's probably getting right now. But like you said, I think their team, with that style of play and the players that they have, they're not only going to get to the tournament, they're going to be a tough ass out when they get there.
They are. They're pretty damn good. Tyler, any concerns after couple losses in a row for Alabama, Nate Oates?
Well, just to touch on Missouri, because I grew up in Missouri. Dennis Gates, he deserves a lot of credit, like we just talked about. I actually have been following Missouri, and I think they've been one of the more underrated teams in all college basketball. For some reason, they've had some big wins, and the Mark Mitchell kid, they can play multiple styles of basketball. They have a big Josh Gray that they bring in off the bench that really embraces his role, that gives them size. And then you see at times when they go to that lineup with Mark Mitchell at the 5, Mark Mitchell is so athletic, he has the ability to switch and guard anybody. And they're a long, athletic team that can get out and run and score, kind of like what we just talked about. Dennis Gates done an unbelievable job, and he should actually be mentioned in the Coach of the Year talks as well. But to Alabama, I do see Alabama at times, kind of struggling and having these odd games. But I'm not going to make too much of that. I've actually been a big fan of Alabama because I saw them in the Smith Center, and I know what they can do. I mean, they're big, athletic. They have size. I just feel like playing the SEC, you're going to run into one of these teams, especially on the road. It's just going to beat you up, and you're going to take some losses like this. I'm not overly concerned. I still think Alabama is a Final Four contender type team. And the reason I say that is because they do have veteran players. Mark Sear's a guy who can get you shots. He's a veteran guy, and the Mourier guy, he really embraces his role. He's a guy, athletic, big, get up and down the court. And Grant Nelson's a guy who can step it out, outside in, provides a lot of length. And also, they made a run last year, so they're an experienced team. I don't doubt Alabama. I think this win has more to do with how good Mizzou is.
Let's take a break. We'll come back after the break, talk about North Carolina dominant in an in-state rival game tonight against the Wolfpack, and St. John's cruising the road in Chicago in the Big East. We'll do that next on the Field of 68 After Dark.
There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that. Would you be surprised to find out that the Field of 68 is home to more than 35 podcasts? More than 25 team-specific podcasts that are hosted by the people that know what fans want the most. The Goodman and Humble podcast, the DTF podcast, the A10 Insider podcast, and the Mountain West podcast. But wait, there's even more. The Field of 68 will be launching the ACC Insider podcast this year. Subscribe to this channel and come along for the ride.
All right, back here, Field of 68 After Dark. Star-studded night here on February 19th on this Wednesday. We are getting close to the good stuff in March. Chris Childers with Randolph Childress, Tyler Hansbrough, and Jeff Goodman. Let's touch on some other action before we finish up with some toast of the evening on this Wednesday. Let's get to an in-state rivalry that Tyler knows all too well about. His Tar Heels whipping up on NC State. Kevin Keats' team was a Final Four team a year ago. This year, not going too well. I think they only have 3 wins inside the ACC, Tyler. North Carolina punked him pretty good. RJ Davis had himself a heck of a day, put on quite the clinic, finished with 21 points. He was 6 of 18 from the field, did a lot of his damage inside the lane. They're on the bubble. Not that this win helps them, but certainly they needed to avoid the loss, and they looked impressive tonight. Your alma mater, Mr. Hansbrough.
I love the hat.
What are you laughing about over there?
That's a best looking hat all night.
Another one.
Oh man, I love it.
How many hats do you have, Jeffrey?
Too big. It's too big. I got to take it off. It doesn't fit, but I just did it for Tyler.
Goodman, I'm going to hook you up with a better one.
All right, thank you.
Listen, this is our best game all year. And what I mean by that is it's one of the few games where we controlled the game from the start to the end. I really felt like we didn't get ourselves into too big of a hole. But with that said, I think the difference tonight was we really made an effort to get out and play with more pace. In the past, we haven't, our style of offense, we've kind of just dribbled the ball up down. We haven't played with pace. And when you get into the half-court sets, our half-court offense has not been great this year. Obviously, RJ had a big night. It wasn't great from the three-point line. But if you look at the one stat, and the one stat that we've really struggled with all year is getting to the free throw line. We shot 24 free throws tonight. And I've always said that stat right there is a great example of us, how we attack the rim and we got the ball inside. We've had games where we haven't even shot a free throw in the second half. And when you look at that stat, it just tells you that we actually pushed, we attacked inside, and we were aggressive offensively, and we just didn't settle for the outside three-pointers at the first opportunity that we got them, and we controlled this game.
Randolph or Jeff, any quick thoughts on Carolina's decisive win tonight before we get to some toast?
Go ahead, RC.
Jeff, they played NC State.
Right.
Nothing.
I'm with
Tyler's being positive. He's cheering for the team. I got nothing for him. It was NC State, 3-12 in the ACC. But I do agree, they did play well. They look good. But NC State is just 3-12. I mean, Carolina's season is going to boil down to final game of the year in Cameron. Can they play their best basketball then? They got to win the next four: UVA, Florida State, Miami, Virginia Tech. They got to win those. They get to 2011. They need that win to get into the tournament.
And I'll just say,
let's get this
based off.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, what RC just said is this game doesn't really help us, but this game could have really hurt us. And this isn't the normal UNC team where we're talking about, being a contender. No, we're right now, in my opinion, looking from the outside of the tournament. We are not in the tournament, and losing a game like this definitely kills our chances of getting to the tournament. So, yeah, you're right, RC. We've got to win that last game and maybe do something in the ACC tournament.
Hey,
let's finish
real
up
quick.
with
I know we got to go.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I know we got to go, but I want to stick in the afters. I want people to stick around because Roy Williams made some comments about Hubert Davis that I would like to talk about in the afters. So we'll talk about that in the afters. Go ahead with toast.
Right,
RC, you want to go?
Go ahead and give me a toast of the night, Jeff Goodman. Go ahead, sir.
All right. I mean, my toast of the night is easy. It's to Ed Cooley, who lost his mom the other day, and he ended up with a win tonight. I was texting with him earlier today, and obviously he went in with a heavy heart in this game. Ended up beating his former team, Providence, which is a heck of a win for Georgetown, but. You could tell he was distraught after the game. It was so toast to Ed Cooley.
Toast.
I didn't know what was going on, but I.
Oh yeah. Tyler, go ahead.
My toast again go to Dennis Gate. They got a big win tonight, and Mizzou obviously doing big things. Dennis Gates.
Randolph Childress with your Pellegrino. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna go with the Johnnies in St. John. Just continue to take care of business. I know they were gonna beat DePaul, no big deal, but I'm just surprised with the year that they're having. Really, I thought they'd be solid. I didn't think they'd be this good. I didn't think they'd win the Big East. So it's just a matter of giving Rick Pitino and the Johnnies some love.
They're a dominant machine. My quick toast is to the SEC and the Big Ten because their commissioners conspiring, making a lot of money for the league right now in New Orleans. We are done. Field of 68 after dark. Peace, everybody.
We're live. It's the afters.
Hit the chat.
I'm not getting close to any Bear.
My career high on the court is 28.
All right, back here, Field of 68 after dark. We are in the afters right now. It was a glorious day of college basketball. We've touched on a lot of good stuff. The SEC busy tonight. Auburn in a tussle with Arkansas. Kentucky looked impressive. Let's talk about some of the stuff we haven't touched on yet. St. John's went to DePaul, and it's DePaul. I think DePaul is better under Chris Holtmann. I don't know what that means. They're still bad, but they're better than they've been. I mean, they're good bad instead of bad, I guess. But for St. John's, they took care of business. And like you guys were just saying a minute ago, I mean, we didn't expect them to be this good. And Pitino a year ago was lambasting his team. He called them lazy and slow and kind of called them out. And it's a completely different looking St. John's this year, guys. I mean, Randolph, it is quite amazing what the Johnnies have put together. And certainly they kept it going tonight.
I said the toast of the night, and I meant that because I was waiting for the bottom to fall out, Jeff. I was kind of like, all right, not saying they will fall out and not make the tournament, but I didn't see them being this good. I didn't think they'd be 2 games clear of everybody in the Big East. I just thought like they'd be in the middle of the pack. Maybe, whether it was Creighton, whether it was Marquette, UConn, I thought they'd be in the mix, maybe 4th or so. But to be this good in the Big East, I didn't see them coming. So that's why I said credit to the Johnnies. We all know Rick Pitino is a hell of a coach. He's a Hall of Famer. But I just didn't buy into this team early in the year and was kind of thinking midway through they'd come back to earth. They've just gotten better. And that's why I propose a toast to those guys.
Because they've embraced like guarding, defending at a high level, fighting, instead of trying to be something that they're not. They're okay with winning games, shooting 3 for 20 from 3. They're okay with that. And, part of it too is, let's face it, the Big East, the top of the Big East isn't that good this year. So it gave them an opportunity, not even the top, the middle, the bottom, like all of it. Yeah. The Big East is it's not what it's been the last few years, right? UConn, especially without Liam McNeely, they were mediocre. We've seen that. Marquette's come down to earth a little bit. Creighton has been really good, but they're not overpowering, since losing Pop Isaacs. They're good, but not great. You look at it now and you say to yourself, like, again, this St. John's team, that's going to win the league probably, where would they have finished a year or two ago? Probably, 4th or 5th in this league.
And that's where I thought they were going to be this year. I still thought that's what I was saying before. I thought they were going to finish in the middle 4th, right there. It's still talking about, can they get in a bubble? I just didn't see them being this good. And it's been fun to watch. And Big East obviously needed it.
Tyler, how do you feel about Pitino? Go what, Jeff?
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Tyler.
No, I'm just curious what he feels, because this guy was around and he yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I don't need to give Pitino any more credit than we've given him tonight. He is a Hall of Famer. He's done it also. He's adjusted through multiple eras of the college basketball landscape, and what he's doing at St. John's right now is incredible, and how quickly he's turned them around to make them a contender. I love Pitino, and I love his style. I love how he calls out his players. I love his old school coaching, and that's what a lot of people are missing in college basketball. We're missing coaches coming out, actually coaching players, being critical, and then giving them credit when they deserve it. I love Pitino.
Legendary, but a lot different than Roy Williams. A lot different construction from a DNA, morality, intensity, all of it. Speaking of Roy, so we talked about North Carolina's win today over NC State. And Roy said this on, I think it was a podcast or something, but he said, quote, "He's the right person for the job. It makes me cringe the way people are talking about Hubert Davis. We've had tough moments this year, but I'd love for it to turn around so I can look at all those suckers and tell them to shut up," end quote, from Roy Williams. Tyler, I know, is going to have an opinion on that. Jeff Goodman, you brought that up a minute ago. Do you agree with Roy?
Well, first of all, let me say, like, Roy's in a no-win situation here when he's asked about it, because Hubert's his guy, right? I mean, so what's he gonna say? What's he gonna say at this point? So you're putting him in a really difficult spot, and I love Roy. I respect the hell out of Roy. I don't agree with Roy on this one. I think Hubert does have a lot to prove here going forward, and I think he'll get one more year to show whether he's the right guy for this job, because, frankly, he's been there for now almost 4 years, and 3 of the 4 years at this time of the year, they were on the bubble. 3 of the 4. Yeah. Last year was the only year where they were locked in and they had an unbelievable regular season. Remember, like, the year they went to the title game, they were kind of on the bubble this time of year. And then they beat K on K night, right? And I was there, and then everything kind of flipped. So I still think he's got something to prove, and I think it starts with the offseason. I think you give him an offseason if you're Bubba Cunningham, and you might have him make some staff changes. You probably have him, as it sounds like, hire a chief of staff, general manager, whatever the hell you want to call it, and you figure out what you do in the portal, because, frankly, that's where they went wrong with this year's team. They didn't get a big out of the portal, and that can't happen.
They got a talent issue. I mean, that's clearly what's been going on. Tyler Roy was adamant, and he said, I want to tell those suckers that they're wrong. Maybe the general manager is what they need. I mean, maybe they just need somebody to help and let Hubert just coach and let somebody construct the roster and deal with the boosters and all that kind of stuff. I know the boosters have been put in timeout with the Bill Belichick stuff, the board. But, what's your thoughts on Roy and how passionate he is about Hubert getting this done?
Well, I'll just say, first of all, I'm not disagreeing with Coach Williams. I just want to say that before I say anything. I'm still nervous about pissing off Coach. But I will say that
even at your age, how old are you, Tyler?
Yeah.
How old are you now?
39. It's amazing, Jeff. It never goes away.
Oh, yeah.
Me. I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
But
Doesn't
with
matter.
that said, I will say on a serious note, anybody who's coaching UNC right now, if Coach Williams was in that seat, he would still be getting criticized for the season that he's having. And I think the front court situation has been a big excuse and taken a lot of the blame for the lack of guard play as well. I think all across the board, this team has not played well. And there's been some times that have been some reoccurring issues that we've seen repeated in games and games. Early on in the year, when you watch this play, we would start the games out very not ready to play. And just to put it politely, it's almost like we sleepwalk our way through the tip-off. And we'd get in these huge deficits. And then we'd do the same thing game after game after game. You look, we got down big against Kansas. We got down big against Dayton. We got down big against Michigan State. And then, fast forward conference play, you're getting down big at Cameron and all these things. And you can't expect to be a competitive team against top-tier talent and just dig these big holes. And, I don't really have the answer. I don't know if the GM situation's really going to smooth things out and make it everything okay. I will say what I expect as a former player, I expect our team to play hard every single game. And there's been times where I felt like the body language hasn't been great, and that's been very upsetting as a former player. I'd like to see our kids play hard every single game and start the game prepared. And I know that we're not the most talented Carolina team that's hit the floor this year, but we could be the hardest playing team. And I really feel like a lot of our struggles this year, come from, I would say we said we wanted to play fast. Well, we didn't really commit to playing with a pace all the time. And then when you get into that half-court set, our half-court offense has not been great. And it just looks like we were just, go on one-on-one ISO ball, dribble into a defensive gap, kick it back out to another guard, let them try to do the same thing, and then kick it back out to the guard, wave out the big for, high pick and roll, and then we'd hemorrhage up a bad contested three-point shot, which was frustrating. But, I think that the problem is there's not a lot of time to turn it around in the ACC because it's such a down year. And, we're going to have our chances. The problem is there's going to be so much pressure to win these next games and then beat arguably the most talented team in college basketball on our home court, which is Duke, which is a rival, which you can, the odds are against us, and especially the way we played at Cameron. But in Coach Davis's defense, last year we were number one seed in the tournament. I think his first year we went to the national championship game. I think the problem with a lot of fans that we're having is it's been peaks and valleys. It hasn't been the consistency that we're used to. And, I don't know. There's been a lot of blame on the NIL part, not having money, not being able to compete with like the SEC, the conference, and the money that they're giving kids. I will just say that the NIL doesn't make up for the lack of playing hard, a little bit of offensive organization, defensive organizations. All that is the frustration from some of the fan base. And, when you're coaching North Carolina or any one of these big blue blood schools, you've got to be able to take that criticism and just ignore it and keep coaching, because you can't have the record at one of these schools and expect not to get criticized.
100%. You mentioned the general manager job, which I think it's going to help. I really do. I think Hubert, needs some of that portion of the job taken off of him. Do you think that, like, should a former player be in that role, Tyler? Like, would you, for example, be interested in being the GM? Like, what do you think?
No.
He's shaking his head. Heck
RC's
no.
laughing. Listen, I'm
Hell
not
no.
qualified to be a GM. I don't manage money, and I will say what I do like about this is a GM job. What I would like is a guy that can come in there that can recruit the portal and already know players that are going to fit the style that we want and have the budget lined out. I'm not qualified or have the experience to really deal with that.
Tyler, you know what I would like though? I would like for you to be the general manager for one day, and then you talk to a kid and he tells you, "Oh, I want $1 million," and you're gonna be like, $1 million for what? Like, to hear your response, when some kid that averages like 8 and 6 says he's a big man, wants to come to Carolina for $1 million. That's what I want.
You soft, Tyler.
That
Be like,
would be my
you
wish.
soft right? You soft MFer. I'm not giving you more than $10.
Have you lost your mind?
I want I just say, click.
That's probably
the name I've heard. Childress, the name I have heard, I'm sure Tyler's heard it as well. A name that's been thrown out there that could be the GM is Buzz Peterson, former Carolina player. He's been in the NBA for a while with Charlotte, with Michael Jordan. I would say this. My biggest thing would be it's got to be somebody who's very connected to the money people, number one. You better be connected to the money people in that school and the boosters. But you also, I don't know if you want to be that removed from college as well. Like Buzz has been gone for a while. I don't know who I pick, but to me, there's got to be some changes made with the staff, and again, you just can't let that happen again. But I thought that was Tyler. I was impressed. I'm impressed with how you broke that down because you didn't Roy Williams it. That's for damn sure. You didn't Roy it, and I'm proud of you for. And again, I understand you guys are in tough spots with this, and but you're also one to speak your mind.
But that's the other part of it, Jeff, that I say. We're talking about money aspect with Carolina, and they'll figure that out. Let's be clear. Carolina has money. It's the roster construction that needs to be the biggest thing. It's the how do we accumulate this roster together? And you guys have talked about it. I don't need to beat the dead horse with the talent. And this talent, the pieces of this puzzle for this Carolina team doesn't provide a lot of options. It's just one way. It's just we got to play 100 miles an hour because in the half court set, what are you going to do? You don't have the personnel to run much. Nobody's respecting your front line. You've had halves in games where your front line never scored. So it puts so much pressure on any one of those guards. Just get downhill, make a play. They just not a lot of variety in how they can play. So getting a GM is negotiating the money, but it's also helping construct the roster. Is why I think, to be honest, if there's a mistake that was made, Carolina is one of those schools that should have had this already. They should have been. This happened already. You shouldn't be, doing it now in so many years. They should have been in the forefront, no different than Duke.
But they're always behind. But Carolina, RC, Carolina's always behind. They're the last ones to change and adapt.
Though. Yeah,
it is, but it's true.
Shockingly, because they think that brand will resonate, and it just doesn't.
It's the Dean Smith
without money behind it.
It's what it is.
Without money behind it, it's different.
For better or worse, they have had this, of Dean did it this way. So we are not going to change until it's almost too late.
You have to, yeah. All right, let's finish up quickly. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I think Hubert has changed stuff. He's gotten away from the
I do too.
More style. Yes. So there's a lot of change that he is implementing.
Yeah.
It's just that to what Tyler said, it's Carolina. They don't care. They don't want this. That's not going to get it done there. They want you to be Carolina, be top 15, top 20 in a year every year. That's just what the job requires.
All right, let's finish up with a couple quick questions. Let's bring in our producer, Mr. Dagan. Dagan, what you got, sir?
What's going on, fellas? So a question, or Ron in the chat said he thinks a dozen teams have a chance to win the national title. So I'm going to change his question up a little bit. How many teams do you think have a real shot to win the championship this year?
Randolph, what do you think?
I've said this before. I think it's 6 teams. If you gave me 5 or 6, I think the national championship comes out of about 6 teams.
Who are they?
It's Auburn, Alabama, Florida would be a team I'd add. Duke, Houston, and make Tennessee. I think that'll be my group. I would bet the farm that the national championship comes out of that group. And I don't know. I'll say Iowa State was a team I had on it.
Yeah.
I would take Iowa. I would add Iowa State, maybe Tennessee or something. But that group of teams would be my list of cutting down on that national championship. I don't see 14, 15 teams that could win it.
Hansbrough, how many?
I'm with RC. I was trying to look up Doster's 8 or 9 teams that he broke down on his podcast with his analytics.
Don't do that. You're
him,
wrong. If Rob did it, just delete it. If Rob said it, just delete it. You got no shot.
I listened to this podcast. Listen, I don't think it's a dozen teams. I'm with RC on this. I think SEC, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Duke. If I'm looking on the outside of that, those are the first teams that come to mind. But I'm with you guys on Houston is an underrated team as well. I think I like their style, so I would throw them in there as well.
Goodman?
Yeah, I would take out Houston. I would take out Houston of that group, and I agree with everybody but Houston. I just don't think they can score enough. They're obviously elite defensively. I don't know. I mean, to me, yeah, Auburn, Duke, Alabama, Florida would be, and Iowa State. The only thing that scares me now, and I've been the biggest proponent of the Cyclones all year, the more I watch them, the more I just don't think Taman Lipsey's ever going to be healthy. And I don't know how they win 6 straight games without a healthy – I think he's playing at like 60, 70% right now. And, it's his shoulder. It's his, I think, thumb. I mean, it's one thing after the other. And like you said about Lamont Butler, RC, like he's just not going to get healthy because he plays too damn hard.
And to me, I was hoping, honestly, Jeff, to your point, I agree he's been dinged up. At this point, you got Munchilovich back. I was hoping that you would sit him down for a little bit and let him get as healthy as you can, because you're not going to win the regular season now. The regular season title is gone. It doesn't matter, and then playing 3 games or 4 games.
Give him a couple weeks.
Trying to play in the conference tournament. Just give him some time off to get ready, because I do think that team defensively and offensively, they got the way balanced as they are, they got a shot.
All right, let's finish up with a quick one here. One more question from Dagan. Dagan, what you got from the chat?
Can't hear me. This is a true afters question. This is why the afters were created, for stupid questions like this.
Go ahead.
And it was directed specifically at RC, but I'll make everybody answer it. They want to know how RC likes his steak done. I'm not really sure how this got brought up, but they want to know how you like your steak, RC.
All right, take it home. Let's talk steak. Go ahead.
Medium rare, baby. There's no other way to have it. You got to have a steak medium rare. You do it any other way, you got to get up from the table. If you well done a steak, get up. You got to get out of here.
Tyler does well done.
Get a fucking hamburger
right now.
If you're gonna get it well done, get a hamburger. Like don't come next to me with no damn well done steak.
No, sir. I'm with RC on this. Actually, I'm going medium, but I've been moving on down to the rare section, so I'll get there soon enough. I'm with you, RC.
Medium rare all the way, or medium, but it depends on where you go. Because some places, if you go to like a crappy, regular,
you don't even get steak in places
medium.
Like that. You don't even get a steak.
I know,
in a place
but
like that. You don't go to the.
I don't have enough Childress money.
You don't go
Sometimes
to
I have to.
Shack and get a steak.
Doster does his well done with mayonnaise.
There you
well
go.
done with
God,
mayo.
Ew! Don't say that.
That's why
vile.
Rob's disgusting, man. That's why Rob is Rob.
That's gross.
He's disgusting. That's so Rob.
Oh my God.
Mayonnaise on a steak.
All right. With that said, I got to go cry because that's bad. All right, we're done. Want to thank everybody for helping us out. Trevor Dagan, Randolph Childress, Jeff Goodman, Tyler Hansbrough. A pleasure to work with you guys, and thank you guys for watching the afters on the Field of 68 After Dark. Thanks, everybody.